Hi, my name is Michael Konomos, and I'm going to tell you today about 7 Years on the Ocean, which is the new EP that I'm putting out on July 18th. So I am a visual artist by training, and in spite of spending years of my life learning the skills that it takes to draw, digitally paint, animate, all of those things, I've always really loved music, and it's been such a part of my life since I was a teenager, discovering the bands that made such a difference to me then and now, that I've always had this itch that was never scratched, this creative longing to be able to express myself in other ways than just visual art. So in recent years, I have started trying to pursue that and started learning how to do analog and digital synthesizers, learning how to program music on drum machines and music theory, learning the piano and that sort of thing. And I'm still on that journey, but I feel like I've come far enough now, and there are pieces of music that I've created that express things that I have to say, that I feel like I'm ready to share with the world now. I think an important lesson as artists is that there is a source within us of creativity that it is capable of expressing itself in very different ways. So we might be a visual artist, photographer, illustrator, or a musician, someone who does dance, someone who sculpts or writes poetry, fiction. But all of that is coming from the same emotional, thoughtful, creative place within us. And we're often told to stay in our lane as creative people. So this is the thing that you train to do. That's the only thing that you get to do. But we see people breaking out of that. And I don't think that there really are lanes in creativity. I think all of this is coming from the same place. I think it's just a matter of what skills do we take time to develop to be able to express ourselves. I have been learning to express myself in this new way, and I think that there is a lot to express. So part of the impetus of this particular EP is it's been 7 years as of July 18th that my father unexpectedly died then. And in addition to that tragedy and that grief and that loss, it was also a time where I really had to process and think about our relationship, our family, our story, and some of the things that we never really had, and his absence for many years, and some of the ways that I was affected by some things that happened growing up, and his battles with mental health issues. And so he died before I feel like his story really had any sort of conclusion or ending at all that really it certainly wasn't happy, and it felt I don't know, like his story didn't end, it just stopped. And so I think it was something that really threw me off for a long time. And so and I still continue to process this, but I think that processing has really been interrupted for several years now by the rise of fascism and us having to fight back against that politically, the pandemic, a year and almost a year and a half now of that life and its effects on us on a daily basis. I think when you're in survival mode, it's really hard to process grief. I think it's really hard for us to be able to tend to our wounds when we're still fighting, still running, still trying to survive, in a threatening world around us. And so I haven't had a lot of time, I feel like, for years now to really deal with this. All of this was kind of on the shelf. And so, shortly after he died, I began writing a lot. I wrote poetry. I was collecting artistic photos at the time that I was taking, and I put together a book and to really express how I was feeling at the time about his loss, about growing up, about life. And I just couldn't put it out into the world. It's taken me years now to even get to the point where I felt like I could share it. And that's something that I'm going to include with the Bandcamp release of this is a digital book that includes a lot of these words and images that I feel like are expressions of that grief and loss and enduring childhood trauma and things like that, in addition to the music that I'll be releasing. And so the book was put together years ago when all of this was still very fresh. The music has been more recent as I've gained the skill to be able to use that as a tool of expression. And so that was actually done in recent months. I've been learning how to use synthesizers, and so I have been exploring, I guess, on this EP what I would consider to be dark ambient music. So meaning that a lot of it's very textural in nature. There are some melodies. There are what you might be familiar with from more popular music, but I guess it's a lot of it's kind of atmospheric, and you can really get lost in it. You can really kind of dive into the depths of your own emotions through this music. But I also think it can kind of sit in the background as you're doing other things, depending on what state of mind that you're in, but still kind of giving an atmosphere and a texture around you as you're living your life or experiencing things. And so I think different people will feel different ways about it, experience it differently depending on where you are. But I've really enjoyed or found a lot of meaning in creating this music in this way. Looking forward to exploring so much more within the creative realm of music, as well as continuing to do visual art. So I am still learning, but I think that the humanity that you'll experience within the music, that it's not all absolutely perfect. I think it works well as kind of an expression of some of these emotions and just the experience of life itself that isn't perfect. There are stories that I still want to tell, and this is really kind of the first step in that process. And I'm really grateful for everybody who's been so supportive of this new lane that I'm traveling in here as an artist. And I'm really so inspired by so many of the creations that you all have shared, music that I'm listening to that you've created, fellow artists who are posting amazing images out there. And it all helps me gain the confidence to share what I'm doing with the world. So I hope that if you are experiencing grief or loss, as many of us have over recent years, or if it's much more personal for you, that you will find something in here that enables you to allow yourself to feel those emotions and experience them in the way that you want to, or that allows you to feel like inspired to be able to express yourself in the way that you want to, artistically, creatively, and to put your story out in the world. So thank you so much for listening. Thanks for giving this a chance. I'm looking forward to this being out in a few days. I'm looking forward to your feedback, and I thank you for your continued support. I'm hoping in the next year or two, you'll be seeing a lot more music coming from me, as well as continuing to make visual art as well. Thanks a lot.